So maybe we'll just start with intros, just to give everyone context. Maybe we could start with Peter at the end.
Hi, everyone. Peter Cotton, like the rabbits. I work at Crunch, and my GitHub handle is microprediction.
Can you guys hear or louder? No, you got to go louder, Peter.
We'll go louder. How's that? I'll do a take two. So Peter Cotton, I'm at CrunchDAO. We are a community of about 7,000 machine learning enthusiasts around the world. And we take business problems and turn them into games and put them back into production.
Okay, I'm Hans, and I'm the product lead at MyShell. So MyShell is a AI consumer layer with decentralization and using tokenomics to do creator incentives on it. And recently, the big news that we have been moving very fast with our AI agent framework is called Shell Agent, and we're looking forward to empower more developers to build more real use case driven AI agents on there and use our token to incentivize them.
Paige, I'm head of growth at OpenMind. We are doing decentralized framework for robotics and also the world's biggest RoboNet for machine-machine and machine-human teaming and communication.
Okay, great. And I'm Casey. I'm the founder of Topology, which is a frontier tech venture firm. Okay, so let's dive in. Maybe we can start with just some specific questions about what your companies are working on. So sure. Maybe for Paige, can you just give us an overview of how robotics and Web3 are working today, in the overview?
Yeah, well, if we take a step back, how is robotics working today? I think most people seeing the Unitree robots or the Boston Dynamics robots or the Optimus, at Universal Studio. I think we are entering this age where autonomous robots are starting to entering people's life. Whereas for the previous decades, we only see pre-programmed and pre-coded robots that you can control with the Xbox controller. So right now we are at an age where we are starting to develop the models and also the operating system for actually intelligent machines. So how will that intersect with the Web3 part? I think some people are working on the data collection part for robotics foundational models. And for us, we are less on the data side because we think it doesn't make sense for you to work on data if you don't really have a model or operating system yourself, given that the big closed source operating system, they're not going to use the external data. So what we are tackling is basically we're making an open source runtime AI system for powering machines. And at the same time, we think that it's important for machines across heterogeneous systems to talk to each other and also to coordinate tasks and to actually fulfill tasks. So that's the second part we're working on, this global RoboNet and payment system.
And say a little bit more about the data part. So how it's different between the Web 2 and then the Web 3.
So right now, for the robotics data, most is collected at the robotics labs at big universities, and they actually need you to interact with the robots versus just random video data you collect on YouTube. Right? Those are the visual language model you are making, but for robots, it's a visual language action model. Whereas if you don't interact with the hardware, it doesn't make any sense. And so I think when it comes to data collection for the robotics model, it's not the same as the data collection for LLMs that people are used to, that's done by scale AI. So it's a totally different game.
Okay, awesome. All right, and then maybe
Sorry, can I ask questions?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm just out of curiosity. So you kind of talk about how Web3 plays into the robotic identity part, if I'm not wrong there. So for me, it's kind of like a huge leap forward because we haven't even reached fully autonomous robotics yet, but you guys are planning for the future where fully autonomous robots can communicate with each other and sort of have their identity. Leveraging Web3. I don't know if I'm wrong here, so please correct me.
Yeah, if we take a step back, I think an interesting use case we're seeing nowadays is one of our clients, they're Australian healthcare service company, and they have their robots at a nursing home. They're not fully autonomous. A lot of things are prompt or pre-programmed, but they want to see the logging of every decision making and behaviors of the robots because they want to make sure the robot doesn't kill the elderly.
So it's like a data collection while the robotics are working on it?
Nothing about data collection. Okay. It's really about the logging of the decision making process and also the behaviors they have. And if you want a robots from Australian healthcare facility to talk to the deep sea robots from Stanford, there's no way they can talk to each other. Even though they're all on Rust 2, the robotics operating system.
So the protocol doesn't align?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's no consistent communication protocol across heterogeneous systems.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I see.
Does that answer your question?
Well, sort of, yeah. I believe. Okay. So my turn, I guess.
Yeah, so
yeah.
my question for you is just there's a lot of agent frameworks and platforms out there today.
Yes.
And-
yes. Too many, I think. Yeah.
Okay, too many. Great. And so how is MyShell differentiating?
Yeah. I think, at least speaking in terms of the Web3 vertical only, a lot of the agent frameworks, I won't name them, but and there are too many. They're still popping out today. From my perspective, they're more like agents on the Web3 vertical. Their main technological focus is like help LM to launch tokens from my perspective, plus a couple tool uses. And I think the actual use cases of those agent framework are very limited to the Web3 world, which is okay. And I think, I think Y Combinator just launched a couple podcasts regarding how vertical AI agents could be a big chance next year. And I think I totally agree with that. I think if people are building Web3 vertical agents, I think that makes sense. But I think MyShell is playing a completely different game here. We're trying to build a general purpose agent, and without leveraging any code, we try to help more people to build their own agent in different category or in different perspectives, not just in Web3, maybe in image generation, maybe in different productivity, maybe in automating their own workflows, and all different things like that. So our leverage with Web3 is more in terms of the creator economy part. We try to incentivize the developers by our token, depending on their agents' use cases or like per user users per day. So I think the shell agent framework, in conclusion, is we try to make it more general purpose, not limited to Web3 part only. And I think from my perspective, there are tons of like long tail software needs that are unfulfilled right now, and can be fulfilled in the time of AI, especially in this year where large language model and post-training reasoning can be so strong in coding. I will give you a couple examples. I think whenever we try to learn code, I still remember when I first learned coding in.
When you first started coding, okay.
Yeah, sorry. I still remember when I first tried to learn coding, and I just realized like how many problems can I actually get solved with coding. But there are tons of projects could be done, and tons of like workflows just from my personal life could be automated, but I just couldn't write that much things. And for a lot of time before AI, if you want to build a software so that other people can use it, the general strategy is to pay to get a software engineer to write things for you, or pay a group of software engineers. And to get the money to pay for the engineers, you probably talk to the investors or bootstrap for yourselves. I think the biggest change that's going to happen, especially in this year, because AI gets so good on coding. Actually, Anthropic just launched their Cloud 3.7 Sonnet, which is fantastic on coding. Anyways, and I think tons of long tail automation process can be accomplished in this year and next year. Maybe those tasks can only be like 100 or 200 use cases per agent, but because basically every single word in software can be written by AI, I think the chance of how many agents can be built, basically 1 million X from the current status code. That's my estimation.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Agreed. Okay, and then for Peter, just on CrunchDAO, maybe just give us like a more 30-second or 1-minute overview on kind of like what you guys are doing too, because I felt like I actually am less familiar with you than these two projects.
Oh, thanks. So,
And then
so CrunchDAO is
in relation to the future of models.
future of models, indeed. So, well, where do we start? So, my views on the future of models, at least 10 years ago, were kind of written down and eventually published in a book called Microprediction: Building an Open AI Network. And the general premise, which people are generally a lot more sympathetic to today, is that AI would be broken down into lots of little economic agents who would self-organize into radically low-cost supply chains for prediction. And then companies would take their business problems and using control theory and other tools from applied math would convert them into commodity prediction tasks. And this would solve the fundamental problem of AI, which is really search in the space of models and data. And so the hope was that you'd have a kind of Hayekian revolution in AI where the notion that the human is the chaperone of models or behaves a little bit like the librarian who's trying to kind of master all of knowledge with a Dewey Decimal System is replaced by a far more effective kind of graphical search organized in large part through the price mechanism. So that's, if you ask me what the sort of future state might be, that's still kind of my best guess. If anything, I would, since the time of writing down that thesis, I think I've been absolutely stunned by the one main thing, which is just the increased ability of algorithms to navigate the world. And so if you take the view that algorithms will find their own way to business problems and solve them and not rely on humans to kind of hold their hand, and now of course you look at the incredible advances in LLMs and you have algorithms that of course can navigate almost anything. So I could say in some sense that kind of nano market generalized thesis that a lot of people here I think are sympathetic to is actually a lot more likely than it seemed like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So where does Crunch come in? Well, Crunch kind of takes the view that ability is uniformly distributed across the earth, but opportunity is not. And that no matter how big your firm is, there will always be 99 smart people outside your firm for every one person who you manage to hire, if not a more extreme ratio, of course. And so if you want to sort of tap into the best ideas, you really have to let everyone play. So to give you an example, the Broad Institute, which sits between, I guess, MIT and Harvard, is very interested in whether you can design machine learning algorithms to look at a relatively inexpensive test and predict the result of a much more expensive test and through images, basically blood cell images. And of course they had their own internal benchmarks, but then they came to the Crunch community and we kind of rallied around this problem and pushed the state of the art considerably. Another quick example would be Adia Lab, which is the Sovereign Wealth Fund, wanted to push the state of the art for causal discovery. And so some of the leaders in the causal discovery field put together a very ingenious contest where people had to try to predict whether A was causing B or X was causing Y or something was mediated by something else. I guess the public benchmark was kind of 55% accuracy. The ADIA kind of internal quant team was about 60%. And if you don't know, the ADIA quant team is like more expensive than Manchester United. So it's like the biggest quant team in the world and the most expensive people. And the Crunch community, which is very different to Manchester United players or anyone else, it consists of people on dairy farms in France coding away, pushed it up to like 78% classification. So just one example. You never, ever know where the best idea is going to come from, and that's
Definitely
what Crunch is about.
That's great. Okay, well, one question I have is that there's obviously this debate of open source and closed source models. And right now, DeepSeek is obviously at the top of everybody's list with GRPO and R1 really working. But at the end of the day, R1 is still worse than the latest models coming out of OpenAI, especially with Sonnet 3.7. And so my question for you guys is, it seems like, or maybe I should just open it up there. Like, what do you guys think as builders in the space about kind of this fact that open source continues to be on the heels of closed source, but there's also the contrary point that it's still behind?
Oh, I can start.
And how does this impact what you're building?
Yeah. I think I have to digest into two parts. One part building on model training, and one part building on the post-training or the fine-tuning part. I think, from my perspective, I think DeepSeek really gave me a huge surprise on how well it actually works, and if the data is...
You threw your R1.
yeah, I mean, if the data is correct, how cheap it's got trained, and you know, the brilliant engineering behind how they sort of get a leeway from the chip ban. And but well, as Casey just said, in fact, OpenAI O3 and Grok 3 and also Cloud Super 7 is still better than DeepSeek in a pretty obvious descent. And I think when DeepSeek just came out, people are having the sort of the opinion that, you know, compute doesn't really matter anymore. You know, China is going to overcome on this because of blah, blah, blah. Well, I actually don't hold on the same opinion. I think Grok 3 actually proved that with, as I remember, 127 times X the training compute being used on DeepSeek, they can actually outperform DeepSeek's performance by a pretty obvious degree. And there are obviously a lot of engineering optimization being done within Grok 3. But I also think just given the fact that how fast the XAI team can produce the Grok 3, given they just launched Grok 2 in 2024 mid-year, it's showing the fact that within given compute, within given talent, the scaling out for post-training does not hit the wall. Probably for Ilya, the pre-training for LLM hit the wall, but I don't think the post-training LLM hits the wall, at least in this year, and compute is still massive. So based on this premise, I still hold the belief that training-based model is still a tech giant game, and you know, training your own base model is never a good idea. DeepSeek is in a lot of way a miracle from my perspective, and I don't think people will put too much emphasis on open source in the future. It's still kind of gonna be like a 3 months to 6 months behind on closed source. That's my guess. So that's the first part. And the second part, which is more interesting, I think, I don't know if you guys have used the OpenAI Deep Research product. I think this is probably the most agentic product I have ever used in my life, and I
by far the agent with the
yes,
strongest
exactly.
PMF.
And I think besides the Deep Research on OpenAI and Deep Search on Grok, every other search product is useless from my perspective. And I also think this is the only product that has great PMF after ChatGPT, launched by OpenAI. Okay, and I actually just listened to a podcast yesterday on the O3 team talking about how they actually built the Deep Research. It's basically an O3 plus a lot of end-to-end supervised fine-tuning on the specific use cases of searching. So this actually kind of gives us an alarm on how agent product can be built. It gives a possibility where agent framework may just not work in general. I mean, I should not be able to say that, but to be honest, like if you look at the Deep Research, it's so powerful, and there's no framework given. It's just purely trained based on O3 with a supervised fine-tuning. That's it. They there's nothing more to use at all besides probably they can leverage some web crawler or Python functions. So I think the agent marketplace in 2025 and 2026, at least from my perspective, going to be in two areas. The first area will be a big tech using their super strong base models like O3, doing a lot of supervised fine-tuning on specific tasks like searching. So they're going to have excellent PMF on that one.
Making verticalized agents, but
exactly. And I do think verticalized agents can be a big tech only game from my perspective. The other area of competition is a more general purpose, solving more long tail, but you probably have to add a lot of human heuristic into the agent because I don't think the fully autonomous general intelligence agents is close to humanity. I think probably by 2030 maybe, but not within 2 years. So we're still gonna add a lot of human heuristic to the agent frameworks to make it actually work by comparing to O3 or compared to Deep Research, lowering down the autonomy to actually have a product that have use cases. So just to wrap it up, I think I don't know if you heard of the bitter lessons in training models. Basically, every year researchers have this debate that they want to add more human heuristic to make the model work more closely to humans, but always turns out to find out that they just let the models do the work by themselves and do the reinforced learning by themselves. It's always surprisingly gonna work out better. So I think two is adding more human heuristic and just purely believe in the scaling law for RL. Those two roles both gonna work out in 2025 or 2026. After that, probably there's only one role, which is just ultimate scaling law hitting compute, and probably we can have general purpose AGI coming at that point. Well, what product format will MyShell look like? I have no idea. That's too far from now.
I like the thorough answer. Okay, do either of you feel differently or want to argue anything about that opinion?
I mean, I don't personally see how closed source is going to stay ahead. I mean, if you wander around this conference, you'll see.
Wait, you do or do not?
I don't. I
Great.
don't. I'm a little biased. I'm an open source developer. I feel rather strongly about that, but there are 2 or 3 projects here at minimum, maybe 15, that are starting to address the fundamental problem of how sort of all the clever people in the world can collectively kind of create some really amazing LLM. And that involves things like federated training and decentralized training and things which has traditionally been quite difficult, but now it's starting to happen. It involves data collectives, it involves other technology layers, as you know. This is just getting started. So to me, it feels a bit, the closed source angle feels a bit like, closed internet kind of thing. I just don't see it.
It's just not going to work.
The open federated kind of LLM that everyone can use is going to win.
Okay. I know they want us to wrap, but Paige, what's your opinion on the topic?
Yeah, I just want to drag us back to the audience here because I'm sure people here are mostly founders or devs, from crypto AI companies. I do think it doesn't matter whether it's open source or closed source because right now, even for the closed source models, they're not profiting. It's the services on top of the models that's actually getting their SaaS revenue, right? I think none of us should try to use $5 million investment dollars to compete with OpenAI or even DeepSeek. I think we should all focus on the orchestration layer or the framework that leverage whatever closed source or open source models out there that actually make use cases work. For AI agents or for us, it's the robots, right? And also if you look at LangChain, I think that's a great example. LangChain is a framework, and then you can plug in any models you want. You can plug in the fine-tune model with your specific data sets. But how does LangChain makes money? It's really the additional services. It's really the plugins, the outputs that's making the money and also making this whole system sustainable. And also even the closed source model nowadays, they're getting really cheap. And for the open source models, on the other hand, they're having the freemium model. They're not going to be forever free. Like Gemini or Llama, if they want to charge any day, they can do it right away. We don't have any bargaining power. If DeepSeek, they want to start charging more money tomorrow, they can do it. Even right now for DeepSeek, the API is so unstable that we struggle a lot to integrate with the API, and you have to use a third-party API service to get a stable DeepSeek connection. So I just feel like the line between open source and closed source is super blurry. And for people who are builders and people who want to leverage the powers of the big tech, we should just build the orchestration, also the application, the use cases on top of that, versus thinking about, hey, can I build another OpenAI to screw over DeepSeek?
Yeah,
hot take.
That take. Okay, they're gonna make me end here, so we'll wrap. But thank you all. A little bit on the future of models, half, I would say.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
So OpenMind, we're based out of San Francisco and Palo Alto. We are hiring for DevRel engineers and product engineers. And if you're interested, hit us up. We're also open to remote positions. We're a team of 10, super lean, super fun.
Perfect.
We have an office in South Park, the startup circle in San Francisco. Hit me up. Thank you.
Do you guys want to make the call out? Go.
It's okay, yeah. We're still looking for engineers, but yeah. Just
Come
check
find these people if you want to join them.